Hey dreamers, this is Jade. Welcome back to my channel. It's time for me to get my March reading spreads done. I will highlight the books that I want to highlight that I enjoyed the most. Will get their own entire spread, and then the other ones will kind of just get a smaller breakdown later on in the journal. I am starting off with Dust and Decay by Jonathan Maberry. It is the second in the Rot and Ruin series, and I am decorating with this set from crepe paper. It just says art journaling on the top. I have tried several times to find this on Amazon in case anybody was interested in it. I can never find any of the art journaling line on Amazon. However, where I bought it was Joanne online. So if you're looking for it, just kind of type in crepe paper art journaling. They have all different kinds of stuff. There is like a sticker book with these splotches, like color splotches, and then there's like travel theme ephemera, which is what I'm basically using to make this spread. And then there's like other stuff or whatever. So just wanted to let you know in case you're looking for these pieces that I am using in this spread. Anyway, I have printed out. I have inked out and stamped Dust and Decay. I actually messed up Decay. I messed it up twice actually, so I had to do this twice. But I took a piece of paper from the back of the book and just restamped it and just covered it up there. Now the reason I am using that airplane is because in Rotten Ruin, Benny and Nix and Tom, when they're out in the ruin, they do see this plane going by, and everybody thinks machines and technology from before the whole great zombie apocalypse is pretty much null and void. It doesn't happen. So no one's ever seen a plane or jet since the whole thing happened, pretty much. And so they see this, and for Nyx, it's like a beacon of hope. She doesn't want to be in the town anymore. She just feels like kind of everybody there is like the Walking Dead, whereas they're going about life, but they're not really having a life. And she wants to go out and explore the Rotten Ruin and find that jet and hopefully hope for a better future for her and whoever. And so that's what Tom is preparing Benny and Nyx and Chung, all of their friends. All of the friends are like going through this samurai training that Tom is doing. Tom is Benny's older brother. He was a closure specialist for the Rotten Ruin, what they call a bounty hunter, but he did it in a more very humane way, killing zombies. I'm saying that in like quotation marks, whatever. So he is training the kids to go out into the Rotten Ruin, to go and find this jet. And so something happens in the town, and they end up leaving earlier than expected. Like they're all just kind of ready to go. And so they get out, and then shenanigans, of course, ensue. Now, I will say that at first, I didn't think this book was going to make 4.5 stars. Like, it was really going to get a low rating for me, particularly because of Nyx. I do not like her. I do not like her at all. I don't like her. And then the book breaks up into different points of view because everybody kind of, because of events that happens, people, they get scattered from each other. And so you have like the point of view from Tom, whom I love. I always want to read his point of view. He is my absolute favorite character excuse me, in this series. Excuse me. And then you have like Chong's point of view, which is one of Benny's best friends. You have the point of view from the lost girl, Lila. And then you have, and I've noticed this in not only Dust and Decay, but the next book in the series, which I read at the end of March into April, which is Flesh and Bone. But then you have not just Nyx's point of view, but like her and Benny are always together. And I find that odd that they end up together all the time. Like, I mean, it makes sense because of the relationship that they have. However, like, at no point did they go off with one of the other, go off with somebody. Like, it just, I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting worked up because, but anyway. So, you have Benny and Nyx's point of view. And honestly, I found myself dreading reading anything from their point of view. And it wasn't because of Benny, it was because of Nyx. She is extremely angry, extremely self-centered and selfish. She wants to be out in the rotten ruin looking for this jet. She doesn't care how anybody else feels about it. She doesn't, if anybody expresses any kind of doubt about being out there and looking for the jet, she gets so upset, so angry, so nasty with everybody. And she just was really ruining the experience of this book for me. Like, I really, really didn't like her. And thankfully, Tom and his band of merry bounty hunter bandits came along, and well, Tom was always there, but and at the end of the book, they are basically dismantling Gameland again. So this is like a pro and a con for me. Dust and Decay is basically Rotten Ruin on steroids. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same plot line. Like, they go out into the Rotten Ruin. These villains are setting up Gameland where they're stealing kids and making them play in zombie pits where they have to defend themselves against zombies in these pits. Same thing going on, but this was, as I said, on steroids. So the last quarter of the book got really intense, and it really made the book. So it brought the score up to a 4.5 for me. If you haven't read these books, maybe give them a go. I would say the first two are really, really good. I did read the third one, and I'm pretty much over it by now. But there's only one left in the series, so I will end up reading it just to kind of conclude the whole thing and see what happens. Moving on, the next book that I really enjoyed and wanted to give their own spread was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I actually listened to the audiobook, which happens to be my second audiobook of the year. Yay, that's 2 out of the 5 of my goal. And I've actually listened to another one, and I'm in the middle of another one. So we're closing in on that 5. I gave myself a very low number, so because I didn't know exactly how I would like audiobooks, but so far I'm enjoying it. The only thing that I will say about audiobooks I do not like is that when I'm listening to them, and I imagine a lot of people when they're listening to audiobooks are kind of doing something else, multitasking, and so it's hard to kind of make note of any passages or quotes or things that you want to remember from the book, and so that is that's the only drawback that I have for audiobooks. But otherwise, I really do enjoy them. Book Lovers by Emily Henry was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars, and the narrator was awesome. Her name is Julia Whalen, if I'm not mistaken, and so I'm looking forward to possibly listening to something else of her narration again. So I put down some book paper, Book Lovers book paper anyway, and I am using some alphas by Simple Stories to just do Book Lovers. Though there is not any pink in the book cover, I just felt like pink would go with this spread, and so I decided to bring it in, and I'm glad I did because the pops of pink just kind of make this spread for me. And so I am, of course, getting the general information down. Again, I did rate it 5 stars. It was an audiobook, and it was so good. I love the characters. I could relate to Nora. I could relate to Charlie, basically. The only thing that bothered me through this book was her sister called her Sissy. And I can't remember if she called her sister Sissy too. But that was just, it just kind of gave me the ick, Sissy. My bad to anybody that calls their sister Sissy, but it's just no, for me, okay? That's like akin to calling a significant other daddy for me. Like, I had a daddy. I ain't finna call no man daddy. I'm just not doing that, okay? So yeah, okay, I just went off on a whole other tangent, but anyway, moving on. I will say about this book, it was so good. The characters were so interesting to me. I love their banter back and forth. It was brilliant, it was sarcastic, it was snarky, and snark and sarcasm is my love language. It comes natural to me. It was very witty, the book. I love their interactions, and you could just, the attraction was there even when they were opposing each other in the very beginning of the book. I don't know, the chemistry is just chef's kiss in this book. And so, as with things that I love. This is an audiobook. Of course, it's on Spotify, so I don't own it. However, I love this book so much, I will end up getting a hard copy so I can read it and eventually just kind of make note of all the things that I want to make note of to remember. So I will end up getting a hard copy of this book. This is just that girl and dude in the corner there is an AI image that I came up with, and the one over on the other side is, I do believe, fan art. It didn't have a name or anything like that, and I'm not trying to sell it or anything. So I did just want to use it in my book spread. So that is another thing that I use to decorate. And of course, I'm bringing in that color, that pop of pink color, with some not construction paper, cardstock that I have. And so I'm going to outline book lovers here to make that pop off the page more, and then I get all of my entry written down. So Charlie is a book editor and Nora is like a book manager. She pitches books to people to see, and she met with Charlie early on in the book to see if he would take basically her favorite client's next book, and he rejected it, basically off of this whole thing with Sunshine Falls, North Carolina, and he was like, it's not realistic. He just did not jive with it. Well, turns out it's because Charlie is from this particular town of North Carolina, and somehow Nora gets wrangled into going to this town by her sister. And you find out the reason kind of later on in the book. And so she ends up meeting Charlie there, and they just kind of have they keep running into each other, having these little mishaps and stuff like that, and it just kind of grows from there. And honestly, I just felt, listening to this, I felt myself smiling and cheesing and just wanting to kick my legs up and stuff like that. I love this so much. It was so cozy, so heartwarming, and so I can't wait to actually physically read this myself. I did want to make note of a couple of quotes for anyone who wants it all. She begins, "May you find something that is more than enough." And that's life. Asking, you're always making decisions, taking paths that lead you away from the rest before you can see where they end. Maybe that's why we as a species love stories as so much. All those chances for do-overs, opportunities, live the lives we'll never have. And so, yeah, that was it for me for book lovers. As I said, I can't wait to get the physical copy and actually be able to, read it this time instead of just listening to it. But the audio was really good if anybody is interested, and yeah, check it out. So the next book that I read was The Last Kingdom, and this is one of my shows. Okay, I love this show. It's on Netflix. It's so good. It took me a couple times to really get into this show. The first time I tried to watch it, I kind of was just half paying attention to what was going on. I think that's what kind of stopped me from really getting into it. But my favorite TV commentator on Netflix, not Netflix, on YouTube, his name is Sifirion, decided to start watching this show. And so he used to commentate on Vikings, and I loved his commentary and like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. And so once he started watching The Last Kingdom, I said, okay, I'm going to give this another try. And I am so glad I did. This is one of my favorite series. It's so good from start to finish. Okay, so I did want to, of course, I'm always like, the book is better. So I did want to start reading the book. It is an entire series by Bernard Cornwell. So you could check that out. This is a library book. A lot of these this month is going to be library books. That was another thing that I wanted to do, is to at least read 5 library books. I hadn't been to the library in years. I had to get a whole new card and everything. Shout out to Michael the librarian, because he was the inspiration for me to go back to the library and make use of the resources there. So shout out to him. But The Last Kingdom was good. It basically followed what I saw in the show. There were a few differences here and there, of course, but nothing too major. So, and that was just like the first part of the show, maybe like a little bit of the first season or something like that. So, definitely, probably will end up continuing on, reading on. I just need to get the next book, but it's not like super priority for me right now. So, my next book was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I think my expectations kind of led me astray here with this book. I only ended up giving it like 3 stars. So, 7 Days in June, from the description, it sounded like to me that we were going to get this nice love story about these kids that fell in love back in the day when they were teenagers, and that we would get a detailed description of the 7 days in June and how they kind of fell in love with each other. That is not what happened in this book, okay? We do have the two characters reconnecting as adults, but this teenage love story is not a love story. So you basically kind of get maybe 2.5 days worth of what happened with them when they were teenagers, and they kind of have this instant connection. However, this is what happened with them as teens is not a love story. They were alcoholics, drug addicts, and codependent in this and alcohol induced phase for a week. It was a mess, okay? And I was like, this is not a love story. This is a rehab story. This is a therapy story, okay? And so I just thought this was going to be a sweet love story of how these kids fell in love, and we would get a detailed um look into the lives of them as teenagers, and then whatever kind of pulled them apart and they found their way back to each other. That's not what happened here in this book. And so I was very disappointed very disappointed in that. I did not like that, basically. And then I will say that the main character, the main woman MC, she has a silent kind of disability, and so that was very well depicted. And what I really loved was her delving into the history of her matriarchal line, and going back to wherever she was from, wherever her family was from. God, wherever her family was from, because they were both authors, and kind of digging into that and doing what she really wanted to do as far as her books and stuff like that. So that was interesting. But the rest, it kind of fell flat for me. So just a three. Just a three for me. And then the next one was Crave by J.R. Ward. I forgot to put my ratings down for these books. I'm gonna have to go back and do that. This one I would probably give a 3.5 or 4. It was the second book in the Fallen Angel series. I did read the first one last month. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. This one was actually really good as well. There's kind of a little bit of a twist at the end. I kind of saw it coming, but it was good nonetheless. I will say I enjoyed the first book better, but I am looking forward to getting into the third book here. So this one follows Isaac, which is a special ex ops operative, and he basically runs away, so they're trying to kill him. And the fallen angels have to keep him alive. So I don't want to go and delve into any further with that, because it might kind of give some stuff away. But yeah, just read it if you want to. If you're into J.R. Ward and her writing, you will probably like the Fallen Angel series. It is not like her Black Dagger Brotherhood series. So no, so kind of temper your expectations, I should say. And then I read The Match by Harlan Coben. This is the second in the Wild series, and here we get to see him actually discovering his family and how he came to be lost in the woods as a kid and all of that kind of stuff. So it was really fun to revisit him and get his story, and I actually find out who he is, where he comes from, and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think the author is done with WoW. At least I hope he's not, and I hope he gets back into his story. I would rate The Match. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It was really good, and I enjoyed getting into WoW more. Another book that I read was Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. This was a 3-star. The drama was good enough to keep me reading it. I loved her friend Evie. She was freaking hilarious. But I didn't care for like the way the dialogue was. Sometimes I'm like, who talks like this? And a few other things, so it was just okay for me. But that pretty much wraps this up. If you have any comments or questions about anything, please leave those below. I trust that you all have been safe and well, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.